Yo, this right here is dedicated to the dedicated snow fighters. We see you.
Welcome to Net Gain. This is Evan Tashwire, Jack of all people trades. Got a special guest with me, Steve Smythe from Storm Equipment. Steve, if you want to introduce yourself real quick to the people.
Steve Smythe with Storm Equipment, outside sales and business development, and Storm Chasin and Storm Academy. Kind of help with it all around here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm definitely glad to have you. I know you know a lot of people in the industry, have the connections, have been doing a lot. So what we do here in Net Gain, we're going to start off with an encouragement that I'm going to drop, and then we're going to get into the training part. So it's going to be Steve and I talking more podcasty style, but a little bit of training and takeaways. And then for those of you who are here live, we're going to break out into networking. So for those of y'all watching this back on YouTube or other channels later, know that when you join Net Gain Live, you can not only listen to us live for the first half, but you can network with us in the second half later. So I'm going to drop the encouragement first. So my encouragement for today with Net Gain is not to compare yourself to others, but think about you versus you. And where this really came to me is I was actually listening to Coffee on the Peak with Scott Lesack, who a lot of y'all know in the industry. And he was talking about fitness, and he said something about like, yeah, I run 3 miles every day. And for context, I'm just kind of getting back into running and walking. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I could never keep up with that right now. But then I thought about it. It's like, but does what you're doing challenge you and change you right now? And I'm like, yeah, it does. You know, the walking and running is getting me healthier. It's getting me more alert. I've been dropping some weight. So my takeaway and my encouragement to you, no matter where you are, is don't compare yourself with others. But if what you're doing for your betterment is challenging and changing you, then you're in a good spot. So keep competing with yourself and, encourage others. But at the end of the day, compete with you. And if you're challenging and changing yourself, you're winning. Steve, anything you'd add to that?
I'd say I agree with that 100%. It's just like right before SIMA this year in June, I bought a mountain bike, and I have not rode a mountain bike or a bike since probably the age of 15. And started out, I remember the first time I went, I did about 3.5 miles in June, and I was huffing and puffing. And now it's a weekly goal, a minimum of 50 miles a week. I do get on after work, and it's just kind of my time for an hour or two, however long I feel like riding. And it's just it's been great. And I watch your journey as far as you're walking and running and showing on LinkedIn and whatnot. It's awesome, man. Keep it up.
Yeah, same to you. That's awesome. And I'm sure at the end of the day, you wouldn't want to look at dudes who ride like the Tour de France and be like, oh, I'm not doing what they're doing. It ain't worth it. No, if it's challenging you and you're growing, it's absolutely worth it.
100%.
So I see we just had guests join. So welcome. So this is going to be Steve Smythe and I for the first hour. And what we're going to be talking about is giving an overview of Storm Academy and Storm Days. And then we're also going to get into a little bit on training equipment operators for the season. So Steve, we just wanted to get in, can you give an overview? I know a lot of people know you and know about Storm Academy, but for those who don't, what is Storm Academy and who does it serve?
So Storm Equipment, we started a separate division of Storm Equipment called Storm Academy. We had the idea, but we kicked it off officially last year. And there's all kinds of training, right? Like I ran snow operations this would be the 35th year in snow, but we do training. We always had our snow kickoff rodeo in say October or so here in the Minneapolis market, right? To prepare and get the snow fighters trained and ready to go. A lot of times that consisted of pushing mulch around if we actually got to that, or just basically hands-on equipment training, sidewalk equipment to front end loaders, to truck plows, to you name it. We do that. We try to squeeze it in on a Friday because we were busy landscaping, and landscaping season took priority because we had all the jobs we wanted to finish. And it was I always just felt like it was a rush to get it done. And then the real training always took place once we got out into the snow, into the real world. We were able to take that one step different here at Storm Academy, here at Storm, and we have a big investment in a large blacktop parking lot that we created on our gravel lot, and we have actual snowmaking machines, just like the ski hills have. We're able to blow about 4 inches an hour or so. Now with the second one we just added, we should be able to get 6+ an hour if we really crank it with the proper weather conditions and whatnot. And we have the equipment, all the equipment that you'd want in the snow industry, we have here at our fingertips. And people can come in that have, never touched a piece of snow equipment, to ones that have been doing it for 30+ years, like myself, that want to maybe just try a different piece of equipment. And what's super cool about this is the collaboration. We have most major OEM manufacturers that are backing this. We're a Metal Plus dealer, largest Metal Plus dealer in the United States, but we have Douglas Dynamics, which consists of Western, Fisher, SnowX. They're here. Arctic Snow and Ice products are here. I'm not going to name them all because I'm afraid I'm going to forget one.
Sure.
But we have we cover the bases of all the equipment manufacturers are here. Same with the equipment too, from cat to case to so on. So
very cool. So it sounds like there's multiple benefits you have there. One, with the various equipment, partnerships that you have in equipment there, people can come in and demo different pieces of equipment. And it also sounds like there's the benefit with the ability to make snow at certain temperatures, to train a little bit in the off seasons, or at least when it's not an active snow event, maybe to get that extra practice. So I could almost see, this is the trainer in me coming to light. I could almost see when you're making snow, especially with different pieces of equipment, you could almost run different scenarios. So it's like if you have a lot of HOAs, how do we run, back blades or a muskox? If we have something like large commercial with docks, how do we run something different?
Correct.
How do we run blades that get under trucks, all different kind of things.
We'll set up different scenarios on the pad. If we got a group that wants to come in this year, we're doing some training on some residential snow. So we have some inverted snow blowers for tractors are going to be here. The muskox, like you said, will be here on skid loaders. And we'll set up a scenario of like cul-de-sacs and whatnot, and with driveways in them and whatnot, so the operators can learn not to blow on a mailbox and so on. Yeah. Then we'll switch that. We can pivot that into a commercial training area. We have semi-tractor trailers out on the pad to be able to plow around them. Metal Plus has the van wing. Arctic has the side swiper, so you can show these different plows, how they go underneath the kingpins of the trailers. Operators can get comfortable and familiar with that, because if you're on let's say an Amazon distribution center and it's your first time doing that, it gets a little nerve-wracking. These trucks are moving in and out of that property all night long, and now you're in a controlled environment where we can spend all day working on it. You're not under the gun to have a time restraint and expectations. Our expectations are to make sure you walk away trained. So if it takes all day, it takes all day.
Really good. So just for people seeing this who maybe haven't heard of, Storm Academy, or, have heard of it and maybe you're interested, how would they sign up? Like if I wanted to bring my company there or a couple of my team, how would we sign up or get in touch with y'all?
You can jump right on our website at stormeq.com, and then there's a link to the Storm Academy, and then link right in there. And there's a whole customer, feedback, like what you're looking to get out of it, how many operators or people you'd like to send. We'll definitely follow up with a phone call and tailor that towards you. And another thing that's cool, so if a company wants to come, like I said, we have all aspects of the equipment here. If somebody wants to come and say, hey, our company strictly only runs Metal Plus, and we want to train on Metal Plus, so our operators go out in the field and we know how to do it and we want to do it properly, or Arctic or Douglas or whoever that is. We can cater to that and just have that equipment set up on the machines to do it. And a lot of times we'll bring in the OEM rep as well. So if we have somebody, like obviously we rep Metal Plus, but if we have somebody come in from Douglas, we would call Douglas and have some of their people come in. They're experts on their product. This isn't us as Storm Equipment trying to promote a product. That's what's super cool about this. It's a total different sandbox we got going on, and everybody is on the same page with it. It doesn't matter who it is. We're not saying, hey, our product's better, this is better, or vice versa. We're here to help the industry and help them grow and learn. It kind of gives me goosebumps. It's super cool. Yeah. 10 years ago, you'd never see this. You'd never see the Ford Chevys playing at the same parking lot. Now they're all there. So super cool.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. I love the partnership. I love the, doing it for the industry, bringing in. I like that part about the OEM dealers or reps coming in to even educate further. If someone wants to run, or somebody does run a certain, like you said, if they run Metal Plus or they run Douglas or Arctic, to be able to have that education there too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, to jump in, I'm pretty familiar with most of the big name loaders, but to jump in a case and there might be a toggle switch or something I'm not super familiar with. So instead of trying to guess and try to teach somebody the wrong thing, we have them come in. They're the experts. We're the experts on teaching them the technique and how to run the equipment and whatnot, but then they can show their OEM end of it and teach the customer that as well.
Definitely. No, that's really cool. Yeah, you don't want to be in the middle of training and be like, wonder what this does. So yeah, I think the takeaway, I definitely say, from a teaching perspective is for those watching, with when you're doing training, definitely training is best, especially as adult learners when we're mimicking or, doing what we're doing on the job. So really think about from a snow side, what does your actual work look like? And then look best to mimic that. And if you do want to work with a Storm Academy and, visit, definitely let them know that. But even training yourself, really make it to be mimicking what you're doing. I think the example you said about like residential, set up what an actual house looks like. Make sure you're not blowing snow all over the mailbox, or make sure you're not damaging the driveway. So I think that's
Correct.
all really good. All
And then,
really
like I
good
said, you're in
tips.
a controlled environment. It's you don't have people and cars running all around here, so
Yeah.
there's not the stress level. There, you're not under the time restriction. So many times, we do our kickoffs and say like again October or whatnot. Then you get the first snowfall, and they're not trained, and you spend your 15 minutes with this operator that's brand new, and you're off to put out the next fire, and it's like you're driving to the next fire, and you feel terrible because you're setting them up for failure. They're not getting the proper time to learn that, and now with this, they're able to spend some time and really teach them and deep dive. So
Yeah, phenomenal. I think it's a great offering for the industry. So I know you guys just had Storm Field Day, last week as of the time we're recording this?
we did. We had it last Wednesday. Wednesday night or afternoon was the kickoff for Storm Academy. Folks could come down and check out the facility and the equipment down there. Then Metal Plus sponsored a dinner that night. Networking event was really good. A lot of people were there. We had over 200 people that signed up for the event. Thursday was the actual field day here at our facility. We had 22, I think it was 22 or 23 different vendors that were here, all aspects from technology companies to weather to plow equipment. All of it was here. And then we had two keynote speakers. We had Steve Wheatcroft out of Canada, powerful, did a good presentation on leadership, which was, I thought, phenomenal. And then Josh Gomez from East Coast Facilities did the afternoon event, and he did some deep diving just on how they do some bidding, and it was basically an open book, right? I've had the opportunity and the honor to work with Josh quite a few times out on sites and work with his people, and he's an open book, so.
Really good. Yeah, I'm listening through as of the time of recording this, the snow jobs recap that you guys did. And I did hear that bidding part was really well received.
Yeah, it was good. It's just, if you can take a tidbit of information from everywhere and just kind of use it for your own, how it fits and works for yourself, that's what's awesome. So even for me, going out visiting customers around the country for sales or just stop and touch and base just to see how they are. It's like I always seem to take a little nugget of info from each one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote that down as another takeaway. So that's definitely another takeaway I'd share to the audiences when you're learning. Like Steve said, take away that little tidbit here and there that you can learn from everybody. And I know I'm learning some stuff even as we're talking, but take that one tidbit and really apply it to your work. The framework I always like to use is based on what you learn, what's something you're going to stop, start, or continue doing. So, okay,
Correct.
I learned that I'm not going to do that anymore. I am going to start doing this, or it might even be confirmation. It might be, hey, you know what? We're doing that. They're confirming it. Great. We're going to keep doing that. So I like that about take one.
Yeah. One of the big things is, especially in snow and landscape, it's like when you go to these panels and you go to listen to these discussions, a lot of people are like, hey, like ECF is so huge. Our company's not even close to that. We're a couple truck operation. What's this going to benefit for us? And it's like, you can take tidbits out of all of this stuff. Like last year, we did a panel discussion. We had, I believe, 6 of us up there, and we took a large retail establishment up in Minneapolis, and we kind of broke it down to tooling it for equipment and all this. And some of the folks were like, it was an over 2 million square foot facility, and they're like, we wouldn't even never have a chance to even do that. Well, don't look at it as a 2 million square foot facility. Look at it as the Shake Shacks over here, and that's 10,000, 12,000 square foot, or this is here and there. Break it down and just kind of look at that whole map, and hey, I could do this, I could do that, and look at it as that way. Cut up the pie and go from there. Don't feel like at these things you have to be intimidated by looking at this. So.
Yeah, that's a real good point. I like that about kind of making it your own, taking the tidbit that works for you, because everybody's going to be a little bit different. What works for one person won't work for the other person. So that's great. So I know you shared a little bit already, but just from your experience, what would you say are some best practices for companies out there on training seasonal snow crews, seasonal operators, seasonal crews?
I feel you can't start early enough. Usually a lot of, Minneapolis market, a lot of places after the 4th of July, snow removal or snow sales really start going gangbusters. And hopefully by August, your CapEx, your snow equipment's kind of figured out what you need and you can place your orders. But just invest in your people. It's easy to get the equipment. It's hard to get the people that know how to run it to be in it. And it's hard to keep those people, because it seems like once those people are trained and you invest the time in training, someone might waive that $1 an hour more or something down the road. Invest in your people, because that's what's going to build your business. We had a team in Minneapolis where I was director of operations. We had a team up there, phenomenal team. This crew worked with me for quite a few years, and it's like we all did whatever it took to make it work. That proves something. A little company, Brightview Landscapes, wound up buying them out for a decent sum of money, and then we all wound up moving on from there. But it's just invest in your people.
Yeah. So definitely, you said start early, investing in your people. And I would definitely agree with the points you made about, the equipment's easy, the people is hard, and that engagement. And believe me, we could have I could take a whole hour to dovetail on employee engagement, myself, because that's
just little things. Snow it's not like lawn care where you have, it rains tomorrow and you can mow the lawn next Thursday or something, where you have variables. You might have 4 to 6 hours to get these lots done under the conditions, right? It's holidays, it's weekends, it's when everybody else wants to pull the covers over their head, we're required to go out. Some people disagree with it, but we're a first responder, right? Like without 100%. Us being out there and doing what we do, the first responders aren't able to get around to do what they need to do, if that makes sense, right? There was an opportunity. I was up plowing in the Minneapolis market, and there's a big hospital right up the road. The main street was completely buried in snow, and the ambulance couldn't get down. And you could see through the window they're working on somebody in the back, and I hopped the loader and made a path to them to the hospital. Hopefully that person made it. But again, without us being out there, that ambulance wasn't going anywhere, right? So it's just hats off to everybody that does this for an industry, because it's not an easy job.
That's probably been the best highlight we've had on the show so far, because certainly I commend you and others who've done similar. But, I think that story just puts the value of snow removal as an emergency response, first response business into perspective. Because if you think about my wife or somebody I care about, or your family, or anybody who's listening, if that's your family in the back of that ambulance that is stuck and this guy is plowing through and they make it because of that, I mean, literally you can't put a price on that. There's, that's invaluable.
All the major hospitals have helicopter pads on them. They're not going to be able to land a helicopter on that pad unless somebody's out there clearing it. That usually is somebody out there doing a lot of it by hand work, in garbage conditions, and they're making it happen to keep people safe. So
yeah,
I'm a strong advocate for that. So
I think that's huge perspective, and that's definitely good perspective to share. My hope is that this gets in front of, because I feel like as an industry, we're getting better as like educating each other and kind of raising the bar. I see people coming together, which is good. I feel like, across the board, I'd love to see this message get out more and more to property managers, which I know with Storm Chasin and other things, you've done a good job at really getting in touch and helping people see another side. So I guess I'll even dovetail to that. Like, I remember you talking about, I think that was Coffee on the Peak, you were talking about sending out Storm Chasin to your property managers. So have you seen that make a difference? And how do you think we as an industry can better connect with the property manager, facility manager, procurement people to really show them that value and all that goes into snow?
It's kind of like I said, invest in your employees, invest in your customers as well. They have such a wide range of duties that they're working on, from on the facilities. Just think of all the different things that go on in facilities, and snow removal is one of the most important ones, but it's one of the ones on the list, right? They have all this other stuff to take care of. And we're not just a check mark on the box. It shouldn't be looking at a spreadsheet and to say, hey, company A is way cheaper than company B or C, and check that box. You need to figure out why company A is at the price they're at and why company C is at the price they're at. Equipment, right? Equipment makes all the difference. If somebody's going to come in and something that's non-maintained and breaking down and they don't have a lot of overhead, they're going to come in a little bit cheaper, right? But the one that has the stuff, not saying that new is better, because that's not necessarily the case at all either, but somebody that has some maintained stuff or some redundancies built into their routes where they have backup equipment in there, it's going to keep your facility open. So it's not always about price. We started the Storm Chasin actually the past season, and we did 6 companies around the United States where we got to go and work with them side by side and kind of do some documentary of what it's like to be behind the scenes and do this work. Unfortunately, this winter, it shook out that most of the ones that we filmed were almost like their first snows or their second snows of the year, because it just wasn't kicking off, the snow was this year. I wound up saying we did all 6 of them. It was a great season. It was a good behind the scenes of what goes on. It's not just, these guys aren't just sitting on the couch waiting for the phone to go off. There's a lot of prep work that goes in beforehand to build the operation plan. Each snowfall is different. That could be from a piece of equipment not being ready to go for that snowfall, to employees that were sick, to a business that only wants maybe fire lanes done over the weekend. Everything changes. It's a game of chess. And there's just a lot that goes on with it that people don't realize. So it's cool. Like I do snow. So to watch it and see the different equipment and to be out there with it, helping do this, it's cool. But like I get to live this and see it every year. It's for the people that don't necessarily see it. I sent it off to a whole group of property managers and building engineers that I've worked with in the past. And some of them responded, some didn't, but some responded back. And they're like, that's really cool, And one of the companies we did was Glacier Snow Management up in Fargo, North Dakota. And Jeremy's one of the co-hosts of the Snow Jobs podcast. And they have really nice equipment. And they do some hospitals up there and whatnot. We had a new cat loader with a big LaRue front blower. It's a separate engine powered blower. It goes on the front of the front end loader. You're looking at a few $100,000 for that unit, right? And it's not that, some guy doesn't have it or has it. They happen to have it and they need it for what they do. But the property manager goes, wow, that blower is pretty cool. And I'm like, yeah, the price of it is XYZ. And this is why we're not billing out $100 an hour for these things. So it's kind of educating them to, what this equipment costs. I mean, you equip a front end loader now, a new one, you're $250,000 easy, for a full size out there. So they have to understand what it all means, right?
Yeah. So I definitely heard, some takeaways for y'all listening. Educate your customers, like Steve said, invest in your customers, really care about their perspective, understand and empathize that they do have a lot of different hats they have to wear, a lot of different services and verticals they're responsible for, but then also educate them on what things cost and why, and even bring like something like Storm Chasin has done, bring them into the experience. So it's not just running off numbers, hey, this costs this much, but they actually see it in action and how it clears and the efficiency of it. So I think Storm Chasin was great. I did see all 6 episodes myself, and I think my favorite was it UDM that was the second one, the one that didn't get, I know I'm spoiling a little bit here, but the one that didn't get too much snow when they were expecting it.
That was up in Cleveland, and that happened right after Thanksgiving, actually. Black Friday after Thanksgiving, I left to head to Cleveland for that. It was a lake effect situation. They're right off the lake up there. It was a lock we were supposed to get dumped on. No fault of the weather. I mean, it was the weather companies, but it was literally, a 2-mile-an-hour wind either direction really shifts that lake effect. Sure. 20 miles to the east of us, they had 30 inches of snow. We wound up getting nothing, but the predicted forecast, we were supposed to get that 20 inches of snow. So there's a lot of prep into that, right? And this happens more and more. And any snow contractor that's listening to this is going to shake their head and agree. There's so many times where we're supposed to get snow and it doesn't happen, but you still have to go through the motions to be ready to go for that snowfall. And
100%.
And when we did the episode, there was some, there was a little internal feedback that we just come back and do it when they're getting snow. And I said, guys, this happens more than it doesn't happen, So I think we show it. It wasn't cool because we weren't pushing big snow, piles of snow and blowing snow and hauling snow, but it showed the reality of getting up all hours of the night, checking the conditions and having people on staff all night, monitoring. And super important to know that.
Yeah, no, actually, like I said, it was my favorite episode for that reason, because it really did. I think the music in it, whoever made the choices on soundtrack for that really did a great job just capturing the kind of disappointment of it not coming, and the back to the start was perfect lyrics when it's rapping. And then I won't spoil this part because y'all got to go watch that episode, but the way they bookend the opening music with the crescendo point is that to me gave me chills, because I'm like, wait a second, it's that song again. I'm like, is something about to happen? Because I thought the episode was about to fade out. I'm like, is something about to happen? And then it was just popped. And I'm not going to give away what that pop is. Y'all who haven't seen it need to go see it. But yeah, that was a great episode.
Yeah, and all those episodes are on YouTube too. You just look up Storm Chasin and pop them up. There's 6 of them on there. There's a bunch of trailers up on it, whatnot.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'll make sure too in the links. So if you're watching this on YouTube later, I'll make sure that the links to Storm Chasin and the links to Storm Academy are up there so people
Perfect.
can get in touch with you directly. So the last thing I'll kind of ask about is, you mentioned training and investing in it. So, how can you make time for training when things are so busy and the day to day pulls you in 100 different directions?
It's one of those deals. It's like land. I director of operations. We did landscape, grounds maintenance, and the snow removal. And it's like this time of year is go time to get those projects done. But you have to invest in that team. You have to just take your calendar, block out time. Don't make it where it's just a Friday or a rain day to do this. You're out in a lot more dangerous conditions than you are in the summertime. You're in big equipment, not necessarily that you're in the summertime. You might have some operators that are fairly new, so you have to dedicate the time to make it. The more time that you can front load that, get these crews set up, the more successful your season's going to be. You're going to have less turnover on employees because they're trained, they feel comfortable, they don't feel, that everything's just a mad rush, and you're going to have less damage.
Yeah, no, 100%. So really it's just a case of block it out, do it, don't put it as a back burner thing. And also, like you said, I think understanding the risk you're up against, both from snow, the need to respond on an emergency, and the understanding your risk. And I think what you said about turnover is really key because I know from, studying employee engagement, your foundation of employee engagement is I know what's expected of me at work and I have the materials and equipment needed to do my job. And that includes training and information. So everything you said there is foundational to engaging a team that's going to stay with you long term.
Yep. And another thing is the little things, the little attention details with your staff. It's like when I was director of ops at Cutting Edge up in the cities, we were a large company and we were fortunate that we had a good office support to support our snow team. Little things like snacks and water and just donuts or, healthy stuff, apples, bananas, stuff like that where they can grab it. We had situations on the big events where it was multiple day that people in our office, our sales staff, they're not out plowing with us and whatnot. They would put together bag lunches and they'd have them. So if the staff came through the office, they could just grab these quick, keeps them from, going through the fast food and eating the garbage, that doesn't do anybody any good. But I would, if I stopped through there, I'd grab 25 of those bag lunches and I was out with the crew all the time. So I just start throwing stuff out to the folks. But just little things like that goes a long ways.
Yeah.
That sets you apart from some of your competition, and that helps, retain these people too. You're looking out for them. Again, they're getting out of bed at 2 a.m. to help you. You should try to help them as well.
I love it. I love everything about this. This has been great, Steve. So I'm going to wrap the discussion part here. So if we do have anybody else in the call, I'm going to open it for networking. But this has been Net Gain, networking, and encouragement and training with Steve Smythe.
They call you unsung heroes. Well, this is your song.